Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Monday, October 18th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that page and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that we've all been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click on it, download it, print it off, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process or given testimonials about how powerfully the use of that process has benefited their lives. And you can also send us an email, tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at JEANIE at mindshiftersacademy.org. And send us your questions or comments, and we will address them in the Internet show, and you'll be able to tap into that on the archives. We're also doing Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year, and today being the (291st) day of the year, the lesson reads, "This is a day of stillness and peace." However, this lesson is preceded by some discussion about the question, what is the real world? And the commentary here reads, the real world is a symbol, like the rest of what perception offers. Yet it says, the real world stands for what is opposite to what you made. Your world is seen through eyes of fear and brings the witnesses of terror to your mind. The real world cannot be perceived except through eyes forgiveness blesses, so they see a world where terror is impossible and witnesses to fear cannot be found. The real world, in Michael Rice's terms, the actual world, holds a counterpart for each unhappy thought reflected in your reality, in your world. A sure correction for the sights of fear and sounds of battle, which your world, that you create with your perception, which that world contains. The real world shows a world seen differently through quiet eyes and a mind at peace. So there's more commentary there. There are 5 full paragraphs. But it's just a nice reminder that we're told in the Course in Miracles time and time again that we are creating a false perception every time our perception leads us to have a negative emotion or a fear specifically. So today's lesson, this is a day of stillness and peace. The commentary reads, Christ's vision looks through me today. His sight shows me all things forgiven and at peace, and offers this same vision to the world. And I accept this vision in its name, both for myself and the world as well. What loveliness we look upon today. What holiness we see surrounding us. And it is given us to recognize it is a holiness in which we share. It is the holiness of the Creator itself. This day my mind is quiet to receive the thoughts you offer me, and I accept what comes from you, Creator, instead of from myself. I do not know the way to you, but you are wholly certain. Creator, guide your offspring along the quiet path that leads to you. Let my forgiveness be complete, and let the memory of you return to me. The Pam Grout commentary for Lesson 291 on the Course in Miracles Experiment book is titled, Within you, there is a stillness and a sanctuary to which you can retreat at any time. That's a quote from Hermann Hesse. Pam writes, the message of Lesson 291, this is a day of stillness and peace, is basically chillax, calm down. When you don't clog up the connection, when I give the floor to my inner anxieties and fears, my time-sucking melodramas, I'm like Cinderella's stepsisters, cramming life's unending beneficence into my tiny shoes of old judgments and antiquated programming. Not taking time to align my mind with eternal, fearless, adamant self is like wearing one shoe or applying lipstick only to my top lip. Today, I surrender to that place of complete trust, knowing I'm connected to everyone and anything is possible. So that's our Course in Miracles workbook lesson for today and our Pam Grout commentary. And as usual, we have about 50 minutes for comments, questions, suggestions. I am compelled to give an update. I was trying to get the Richard Moss interview uploaded, and there seems to be a problem with the file. So I'm holding my breath, counting my blessings, and hoping that the poditized people that I send these off to will be able to make it work, and eventually I'll have an offering where people can listen to the Richard Moss interview through the On Your Mind podcast with Journey's Dream, because for whatever reason, the technology is not allowing me to upload it to Blog Talk. I've even sent the file to Jeannie, and she's tried with the same result. So there's something apparently corrupted in that file, or some tags attached to it that don't let the Blog Talk Radio software recognize it and upload it as a full file. So Richard Moss was a recommendation from one of our listeners, and if you have a recommendation, let us know. What would be one of your favorite authors or spiritual teacher or one of your favorite podcasts that you would like us to look into and either interview them, bring them on live, or do a recorded interview and then play it. And if you've got any of those comments or suggestions, email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org or give us a call. 563-999-3581 and press 1. I have been working through working through the 15 commitments of conscious leadership and talking about that here. I've also been delighted when I put the filter on, which is most beneficial to me, the filter of how are these things similar? And I see so much overlap between the work we do in my practice and the 10 bottom line observations and the 15 commitments of conscious leadership. And there's an entire chapter on, I was talking about the candor commitment last time, and that was one of the more difficult ones for me as I thought about having that level of openness and candor with more and more people in my life, which of course meant there's more work for me to do, because there is no reason most of the time for me to keep anything about my thoughts or my emotions or the physical energies they call feelings hidden from other people. So I did a whole bunch of reality management worksheets on that and EFT tapping about that, and that's been quite beneficial. Every time I think I want to withhold something from somebody else, I can instantly know that decision is driven by fear. And the more I remove those fears, the more free I am to do what would be more like a choice in Dr. Michael Rice's terminology, to look at options, to be creative, to have the liberty to choose any option that would be beneficial to myself and those around me. Whereas if I'm doing a decision, it's just an action from the automatic decision process within me. Stuff gets resonated, and it gets active in me, and then it chooses my thoughts, words, and actions. The commitment number 4 is to speaking candidly. And the above-the-line commitment is, I commit to saying what is true for me. I commit to being a person who offers to whom others can express themselves with candor. And of course, the below-the-line commitment is the opposite of that. I commit to withholding my truth, facts, feelings, and things I imagine. I commit to speaking in a way that allows me to try to manipulate an outcome, and I commit to not listening to the other person. So hopefully we covered that enough Thursday and or Friday, and we can move on to the next commitment, which is a real difficult commitment for most people in this culture. And that has to do with the commitment about gossip. And a lot of these tie in with each other, but there's a powerful clearing process in this commitment on gossip that I wanted to bring up. So the 5th commitment is a commitment to eliminating gossip. And the above-the-line commitment is, I commit to ending gossip, to talking directly to people with whom I have a concern, and encouraging others to talk directly to people with whom they have a concern or an issue. Now, for years, I have worked with families, and I have said one of the more toxic dynamics in a family is indirect communication. If I have a problem with Larry, and I go to Barb and talk all about the problems with Larry, that's an indirect communication. And this is one of the most rampant patterns in our culture that lead to conflict, separations, divorces, hurt feelings, the full range of negative emotions, distrust. It is so pervasive that people gossip in our culture that many times when they present this, people they can't even conceptualize of doing things any differently. And they go to all the extremes of saying, oh, so I'm never supposed to talk about anybody? So here's the below-the-line commitment. I commit to say things about people that I would not or will not say to them. I commit to talking about people in ways I wouldn't talk about them if they were in the room. And I commit to listening to others when they gossip. So gossip has been so much a part of our culture for so long. It even has its own industry that generates millions of dollars each year, produced by tabloid magazines, television shows, and tell-all books. Gossiping is also an accepted practice in many organizations that they coach. So, because people can interpret gossip differently, they give a definition. For our purposes, here's gossip. Any statement about another made by someone with negative intent, or any statement about another that the speaker would be unwilling to share in the exact same way if that person were in the room. So, how many times in your life do you speak about other people when they aren't there in a negative way? How many times do you say things to a third party that you wouldn't say directly to the person that you're talking about? Gossip kills trust. Gossip fuels animosity and bitterness. And when people make a change in the gossip, number one, it's challenging because it's been such a long-held pattern, but it makes massive change in the atmosphere and the environment. So the reasons people do the gossip is to make others wrong, to gain validation, to control others, sometimes to get attention, sometimes to divert attention, sometimes to avoid conflict, sometimes to avoid feeling or expressing authentic emotions. Sometimes they do it to create pseudo-alliances. However, gossip doesn't create true alliance and connection. It always undermines that. How many times have you been with somebody and they're gossiping and you absolutely know if they meet when you're not there, you're going to be the subject of the same kind of gossip, judgment, negativity? So here's how to clean up gossip. Both the gossiper and the listener must take steps to eliminate gossip. How you clean up gossip is, this is the painful one, you reveal to those whom you have been gossiping. Margaret, I want to acknowledge that I've been speaking critically about Sarah to you without sharing my thoughts directly with Sarah. I see that my behavior is not serving me, serving you, or serving Sarah, and I'm committed to no longer gossiping about her to you or anyone else. I also plan to take responsibility for this issue by revealing to Sarah that I've been gossiping about her and clearing my issues with her directly. Then, reveal to the person about whom you've been gossiping. Sarah, I want to acknowledge to you that I've been speaking critically about you behind your back, and I feel regretful about my choice to do so. My relationship with you is important, so I'd like to clear an issue I've had with you directly. Is now a good time, or could we talk later? The last one is reveal to the gossiper to whom you've been listening. Hey, Brian, I wanted to acknowledge that I've been participating in gossiping about Jim by listening to you criticize Jim. I no longer want to listen to any of your thoughts about Jim that you're not willing to share directly with him. I'm also unwilling to participate in any conversation about him where the intent is to make Jim wrong in any way. If it would be supportive, I'd be happy to facilitate a clearing conversation between you and Jim. Now, in order to do this, you have to get clear about a lot of different things. You have to be willing to have difficult conversations. You've got to be clear about the difference between the fact and the story. Dr. Michael Rice talks about this in his responsibility communication tool. He says, first, you describe what happened the way a camera would see it, or a video recorder would record it, or a tape player would record it. That's the fact. And in this work, they talk about the difference between the fact and the story. The fact is that which is unarguable, what a camera would watch or record, what a tape recorder would record, something that's factual and objective. It's a description. It's black and white. It's reality in their word, but in Michael Rice's terms, it would be actuality. The story, that which is arguable, is my opinions, my beliefs, my judgments, my interpretations, my motivations, and my assumptions. Now, in order to use this clearing model effectively, it's important to understand the difference between a fact and a story. You'll be using both these concepts if you clear an issue with another person. The facts are the objective data, and the story are the interpretations of the facts. Often we'll be in a meeting and we'll hear people say, the fact is, ... they dropped the ball. We screwed up. This idea is dead in the water, or he spoke disrespectfully to me, or legal and compliance are too oppositional, or she's the best sales manager we've ever had. And actually, none of these statements are facts. They're all stories. The issue is compounded because many organizations, and rightly so, want to be data-driven, and a high premium is placed on facts and data. But these are stories just labeled as facts. Conscious leaders know that facts are not the cause of upset or drama. Facts don't cause stress. Drama and stress are caused by stories, and stories are made up. We are the story maker. This is not to say that all stories cause drama and stress. Some stories make us happy. In the clearing model, it's not the fact that causes relational dissociation with a business colleague, but rather it is the story you create about those facts. So, how do you separate a fact from a story? For this model to be effective, all parties involved must have an experience of being clear. And clear means I've expressed all of my thoughts, all of my emotions, and all of my physical sensations. And I feel like I am fully expressed. When I say I'm clear, it doesn't mean that the issue is resolved or that I agree with the other person or they agree with me. It means that I no longer have any unexpressed thoughts, feelings, judgments, and desires. And it also means that I'm willing to take 100% responsibility for how I've helped create the situation and kept it going. Once you're clear, you're able to have a conversation to resolve whatever is left that still needs to be resolved. So the fact is, quarterly sales are down 4%. The story is, the sales team isn't doing their job. The fact is, my manager spoke to me with a red face and increased volume. The story is that my manager is mad at me and disappointed in the job I did. The fact is, a colleague came to a meeting at 11:15 that was scheduled to start at 11. The story is, my colleague doesn't respect my time or care about the subject of the meeting. The fact is, I got a 22% bonus. The story is, the company thinks I'm doing a great job and they're pleased with my efforts. The fact is, I wasn't invited to a corporate cocktail party. The story is, my team leader doesn't like me and doesn't value my input. The fact is, I was fired. The story is, this is a bad development. So, hopefully you can see the difference between the plain fact describing something, camera or a tape recorder could record it, and my interpretation of it, which is the story. So here's an example of the clearing model and how a person could clear an issue. This is a person named Brian clearing an issue with Jim. He starts by trying to affirm a meaningful relationship. Jim, I want to clear this issue with you because I value our business relationship. The next step is, I want to establish a time to talk. Is now a good time to talk? If not now, when? The next step is, the specific facts are, and this is like Dr. Rice's responsibility communication tool, recordable facts, not judgments. Here's the statement that Brian made to Jim. The facts are that for 4 of the last 5 meetings, you showed up after the start time. The next statement is, here's the story I make up about that. My judgment, my story, I imagine. I could start with any of those. I imagine that this means this. My story is that this means this. My judgment is that this means this. In this example, they have Brian say, I make up a story that this meeting isn't important to you, that you are not prioritizing this project, and because you're overcommitted, this project is going to fall through the cracks. The next step is my feelings, my emotions. Angry, sad, scared, the sexual feeling, joyful. From the 5 base emotions that they outline in this book. So they have Brian say, I feel scared and angry. And then the next part is, my part in this is. And they have Brian saying, My part in this is that I didn't speak directly to you the first time it happened. I also didn't create a clear agreement with you at the onset about the timing or priority of these meetings. My own fear about completing this project is making everything feel significant. And the last step is, and I specifically want. They have Brian saying, I want to make clear time agreements with you and renegotiate them beforehand if necessary. I would really like you to check in with yourself to see whether you're aligned with this project and tell me if you aren't. So if you have looked at Dr. Michael Rice's responsibility communication tool, which we highly recommend, it's available on whyagain.org. It is, if you go to whyagain.org and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, when you're on the next page, simply start scrolling down and you'll get access to a whole list of worksheets. And in that list is the worksheet titled Responsibility Communication. And the responsibility communication rules have me stating that my commitment and my goal is to communicate my reality rather than winning something, overpowering someone, or abusing someone. And I start out the very same way. I say, I have an issue I would like your help in processing. Now, Michael Rice doesn't say this in his worksheet, but I've heard him do this. Is now a good time, or could we talk later? And then his second step is make the objective observations, just like we talked about before. Only what a camera could see or a tape recorder could record. The tip he gives here is, if your communication partner becomes defensive, you may have strayed from the facts into your story or interpretation. The third step is the subjective observations. And here's where I identify my thoughts and feelings, my issue here. Remember, I'm describing and speaking out of the output of my mind, my reality, not the truth of what is, not actuality. And the tip they give here is, find a way to talk about this in a way that reflects you know you are 100% responsible for the images your mind creates and your interpretations. The whole goal here is to own and admit that you have an issue. To own your reality, not try and prove to the other person that what you say about them is true. And the fourth step is, what I want first and foremost is to heal. Right? So I'm going to cancel all my other goals and let go of problem solving and figuring it out. And the tip here is, remember to be responsible for whatever surfaces if you don't get the support you want. And then the next step is to ask the other person, do you have any ideas? And actually listen to them as if they were intelligent. Stay in that open space to hear their perspective. The tip here is to give yourself space to at least temporarily think and act as if whatever is being offered is totally true and will work. Very, very similar to the clearing technique. Very, very similar to what Robert Bolton offers in his book, People Skills, where he talks about reflective listening. So, in a nutshell, conscious leaders recognize that the cost of gossip to their organizations is devastating. And so they shift so that expression is done directly instead of indirectly, and that expression is done with candor and authentic feelings. And when they do that, the reason they talk about this all through the book is because they want to open the flow of energy. They understand that when I withhold, when I gossip, when I'm living out of integrity, when I'm not taking responsibility for my own energies and what I've created, it binds up my energy. It drains me. And their point is freeing up the flow of energy every chance they get. Because to be a conscious leader requires a lot of energy. And they talk about it the same way we talk about it when we talk about the EFT tapping and getting the energy flowing and keeping your breath moving. When you, even if you have a negative emotion come up, keep breathing. They talk about the very same stuff in this book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And then the next commitment is about integrity. I commit to the masterful practice of integrity, including acknowledging all my authentic feelings, expressing the unarguable truth, keeping my commitments, and taking 100% responsibility for what I'm doing and creating for myself. That's the above-the-line commitment. The below-the-line commitment is I commit to living in incompletion by withholding my truth, denying my feelings, not keeping my agreements, and not taking 100% responsibility. Several years ago, they worked with an investment firm that wanted to create a high-performing culture. They did an initial off-site meeting with all 50 employees. Everyone seemed quite engaged as they talked about the qualities and the practices of high-performing teams. They asked us to return to support them in the work of transforming the organization. During that second visit, we met with top leaders in small groups to begin the practices of conscious leadership. Very quickly, we recognized something was really off. We were coaching people in the practice of candor, teaching them about the power of revealing versus concealing, and holding their story lightly and speaking unarguably. It was obvious to us that some employees were resisting this practice. We often experience some resistance at first, but this time it was palpably different. During a follow-up phone call, several of the leaders let us in on the, quote, secret, close quote, that was beneath this collective resistance to practicing candor. The proverbial, quote, elephant in the room, close quotes, was the CEO's affair with his secretary. Everybody in the firm knew about it. He was keeping the affair from his wife and trying to keep it a secret from his partners at work, all the while publicly espousing the values of candor and openness and integrity, and telling his colleagues that the firm's success depended on all of them being candid. This is an example of what we call a breach in integrity. As you can imagine, it doesn't work to say one thing and do another. What you do speaks far more loudly than what you say. And they go on to say, we have found that conscious leaders are masters at managing energy. When they allow energy to flow, they are alive, engaged, passionate, on purpose, creative, innovative, intuitive, clear, visionary, relaxed, and refreshed. Energy flow is our natural state, but when it's blocked or interrupted, the life force so essential to great leadership, and I would say to a quality life, a high quality life, that is dampened and the effectiveness wanes immediately and sometimes drastically. So, from this perspective, they define an integrity breach as anything that interrupts or blocks the flow of energy. People will feel this in their bodies, their hearts, and their minds long before they understand it. Modern organizations spend millions of dollars and many hours on increasing employee engagement. Yet we've discovered that engaging employees is all about allowing the flow of life force or energy in individuals and an organization. Integrity breaches are a major cause of employee disengagement. So, congruence. Integrity is wholeness. One form of wholeness is the uninterrupted form of energy or life force. A second form of wholeness is congruence, which relates to matching what is on the inside to what is on the outside. Congruence is a characteristic of powerful conscious leaders. Many leaders believe that good leadership calls for not matching experience to expression or their insides to their outsides. If they feel scared on the inside, they do everything they can to avoid letting that fear show on the outside. If they have a judgment or an opinion, they're very careful not to express it. We understand this belief and the consciousness from which it originates. But this is not congruence, wholeness, or integrity. Leading from this old belief takes a tremendous amount of energy. It takes effort to hold back feelings, thoughts, wants, and desires. Our view is that leaders in today's world need all their energy to lead, but many of them expend their life force by blocking the natural flow from the inside to the outside, from experience to expression. This reminds me of how often when people first get introduced to this work, and let's say they start doing a worksheet or they're talking about the worksheet they want to do, and they begin to have an intense emotion, and they'll start crying. And I will frequently say, okay, take a breath, keep breathing. And many people interpret that as meaning that I just told the person to stop crying, when in reality, my intention is the opposite. My intention is to keep the energy flowing, keep the breath flowing, let them feel what they're feeling, and keep their breath moving. If they keep their breath moving, they will actually feel the feelings more intensely. However, they'll also keep that part of the energy system that processes emotions open and flowing. And so they will begin to process emotions rather than lock them down inside their energy system. Very, very similar to what they're promoting in the 15 commitments of conscious leadership. Energy is needed, and energy needs to flow to be effective. And we need energy to lead our lives in a healthy, productive, creative way, whether we're trying to lead others or we're just trying to lead our own lives. So, that's my offering for today. It has to do with recognizing how destructive criticism and gossip are, and making a commitment to ending that consciously with direct communication, and making the commitment to share thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and making a commitment to be congruent, making a commitment to live up to my commitments more and more. And if, for whatever reason, I find myself not living up to a commitment, I address it directly. I either say, I need to renegotiate this with you, or I say, because of certain factors, I've decided to not live up to this commitment. Sometimes I just change the timeline. Sometimes I cancel the commitment altogether. But I do it openly and directly. That's being in integrity. And that allows the energy to flow between me and the people around me. And it allows me to have the energy flowing inside me if I've set a commitment with myself to eat healthy or exercise a certain amount of time. And if it's not happening, I want to be very direct about it. Analyze why it's not happening, whether or not I want to make a change, whether or not I want to recommit to it or cancel the commitment and the goal. And all of those things let the energy that I need to live my life in a productive way, let those energies flow and be available for use in a creative, joyful, productive living experience. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. We have time for a comment, a question, a response, a worksheet, at least framing out some worksheets, questions about what's happening in your life. How can we be of assistance? We've got about 10 minutes left. 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. What's on your mind? I haven't mentioned this in a while, so I will mention that the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership is available in book form, and it's a new paradigm for sustainable success, and it's written by Jim Dethmer, Dethmer, Diana Chapman, and Kaylee Warner Klemp, KayleyWarnerKlemp. The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, with wonderful overlap between the work we do in Mindshifters support groups and on Mindshifters Radio, and wonderful overlap with the 10 bottom line observations that I offer patients in an initial session. As some of the most useful things I've learned in my 47 years of doing therapy and living life. And I tell people, I think, 47 years worth of doing therapy, I don't think I've gone hog wild. I've only got 10 bottom line observations. And the thing about them is they are only going to be of value in your life if you're looking at what's happening in your life and observing directly for yourself, and you say, oh my gosh, that works that way for me too. The quick review of the bottom line observations is, number 1, hardest one right up front. If whatever I'm doing is not working, I should feel free to try something else. Why is that the hardest one right up front? Because my assumption when you come in to see me is that you're not sick, crazy, stupid, lazy, or masochistic. You do not enjoy the pain. So what that means by extension is everything you do, you've got a really good reason for doing. Even if it doesn't reside in your conscious logical mind and you can't figure out why you do it, if you do something, some part of your mind told you this is a good thing to do. Out of all the options I can see right now, this one's going to cause the least amount of pain and suffering. The second observation is that blame is a luxury item. I've never seen blame lead to the productive or constructive resolution to a problem, although I've seen kindergarten-age kids who are expert at blaming. The third observation is, I have observed after decades of trying that I can't make anyone do anything they don't want to do. I might have control over some consequences, and they may choose to avoid certain consequences of things I have control over by doing something they would rather not do, but they're doing it to try and gain something. They're choosing to do it. I can't force them to do it. The fourth observation is, I can only control and be responsible for my own emotions and reactions. I cannot control or be responsible for the emotions or reactions of anybody else, no matter how hard I try. I muted Jeannie because there was quite a bit of background noise. I'll read number 4 again. I can only be responsible for my own emotions and reactions and control them. I cannot control or be responsible for the emotions and reactions of anyone else, no matter how hard I try. And most of the time when I read that to people and they nod and say, yeah, it makes sense, and then I say, okay, do you realize you just agreed to the fact that no one's ever made you angry, no one's ever made you sad or scared or hurt your feelings? And they usually protest quite vociferously that that's not the case, that people are making them angry and hurting their feelings, etc. But then we read it again. And if I can't control or be responsible for the emotions and reactions of anybody else, no matter how hard I try, that means they can't control or be responsible for my emotions and reactions. The fifth observation is, my greatest strengths will at times be my greatest weaknesses, my greatest assets at times, my greatest liabilities. The sixth observation is the one that used to send people running for the door screaming. My observation is that every day I'm alive, I become more and more like my parents. If I refuse to see this, it dooms me to live it out without the possibility of change. If I accept this, it gives me the possibility to change my behavior as I see it happening. There's a corollary here that says, your children will grow up to be more like you than anything you ever tell them you want them to be, or anything that they want to be. So if you don't like what you see coming out of your children, the very best use of your energy is to focus more of your energy on working to become the kind of person you would want them to be. The seventh observation is, when I deny or avoid the negative emotions and experiences in life, I cut off an equal amount of the potential for positive emotions and experiences. The corollary here is, the best way to smother the intimacy in a relationship is to avoid conflict and confrontation. And if I don't know how to turn confrontation into resolution, I can learn. The eighth observation is, what happens to me and around me in my life is not nearly as important as how I choose to interpret and respond to those events and circumstances. The ninth observation is, I will never be upset by anything anyone else ever says or does or refuses to do or say that I think they should, unless I'm still judging myself negatively for doing the same or similar things. This may only be in my thought. It may even have been decades ago. And always, if I am upset, it will be because I am judging myself negatively for doing the same or similar things. The only way to truly eliminate my upset is to dismantle the negative judgments against myself and watch compassion take its place. The final observation, number 10, reads, whenever I have a negative thought about myself or someone else, or a negative emotion, I can instantly, absolutely know the following three things. Number one, this is false or based in a lie. Number two, this is an old tape playing in my head. I'm never upset about what is going on in the moment. If I am fully present and aware, there won't be upset. Even if there's something negative or abusive going on, there won't be upset about it. There will be action based on things I have control over to change the situation for the better in any way possible. And the third thing I can know whenever I have a negative thought about myself or someone else, or a negative emotion going in my system, I can instantly know that if I take an action from it, I will make my situation worse, not better. I can't possibly improve my situation by pouring negative emotional energy into it or acting from that negative emotional state. So hopefully you can see some overlap and corollaries, parallels between that and the 15 commitments of conscious leadership and the responsibility communication tool. And that's our talk for today. There's a second hour coming up with Michael and Jeannie. And I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. And I will welcome Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. Appreciate you. So,
have things settled down today?
Well, my dad's decided to sleep now, and I am resisting the temptation to go in there and wake him up. It's like he woke me up
Understood.
3 times during the night, and now he wants to sleep.
Got to reset that clock somehow.
I know.
Well, have a wonderful show and a lovely vacation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.